Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, my name is Marie-Claude and welcome. Today we are going to be in the kitchen to make some Rutabaga Casserole. It is one of the dishes that has been on our Thanksgiving table for many years. But first I thought we'd start in the garden and harvesting those Rutabagas. So here we go. Okay, we're now in the garden, and I haven't given a tour of the garden yet. It's kind of off season in November. There's not much of anything growing. I have some cabbages in the upper garden and some Brussels sprouts, and I'm not too hopeful about the Brussels sprout, but I'm hoping that the cabbages will yield or be ready to be harvested in about 3 weeks or so. It's mid-November. We're in an agriculture zone 6B where I'm located. And so pretty much it's kind of the end of the fall season for us. We need to harvest our rutabagas from the bed. Rutabagas are a cold crop. I sow only usually one bed, just enough to have for Thanksgiving and Easter casserole, and some cubed rutabaga that I freeze that we eat with potatoes and carrots as roasted vegetables. I sow them in mid-July, and I hope to harvest them beginning of November. This year they were very slow. Something was not right with the garden. But today is the day we're getting them out of the ground and inside to make a rutabaga casserole. So here we go. Everyone, thank you for joining me inside. We're going to make the rutabaga casserole now. What I've already done is I've already peeled and diced my rutabagas that I got from our garden. As I mentioned, my harvest wasn't the greatest. My rutabagas were maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches in diameter, and so they were very small. The ones that you get in the grocery store or from the farm are probably bigger than that. Not very happy with my rutabaga harvest this year, but we have enough for a casserole, so we're good to go. But I did get this one at the grocery store. When we get those, at least down here in the United States or in Pennsylvania, unless you get them at a farmer's market where they're fresh, when we get them at the grocery store, they're coated with wax, and that's to preserve them because they tend to bruise a lot. And to prevent that bruising, they coat them with wax coating. So what we're going to do first is to remove that wax coating and peel our vegetables and then wash them really good before we use them. Rutabagas, again, if you get them in the grocery store or even at the farmer's market, they may be very big. This was the biggest they had today at the grocery store, and they were all the same. I prefer buying smaller ones. If you get them too big, they're difficult to cut. And my gosh, one year they were so big, I almost asked my husband to go and grab the axe and cut my rutabagas because they were so difficult to cut. I had a hard time with a knife. So my recommendation is when you get to the grocery store, when you buy your rutabagas, grab the smaller ones. They're as good as the bigger ones. Just buy a little bit more and use them. You'll thank yourself because they're much easier to cut. You will need, for this recipe, you need 2.5 pounds of rutabaga, so that's about 2 large ones like this, or smaller ones to equal about 2 pounds of them of diced rutabagas. But this one is about a pound, so you'll need 2 of those of the big ones. Rutabagas are another staple of Quebec cuisine. I had them all the time growing up. My mom used to mix them with mashed potatoes. We used to hate it. We would cry. If you ask my sisters, it was not our best favorite meal. But I actually developed a taste for them. They're delicious roasted with some butter. You can roast them with potatoes and carrots. I do that frequently, and they're delicious roasted on their own. What I'm going to make today is a casserole. They'll be mashed and they'll be mixed with some breadcrumbs and some half and half and some eggs and some agave nectar, and delicious again. We've introduced this dish to nurses in the emergency room. One year, my husband asked me to make it, and he took it for their potluck. And nurses had no idea what it was, the doctors, and they loved it. It was a hit. So since then, every year for Thanksgiving at the local emergency room, my husband brings a dish of rutabaga casserole for the nurses. Because of the harsh winters, again, it comes back again with the traditions, the French, the British, the Irish, and the indigenous people of Quebec back in the day, and the harsh weather. They used to just use root vegetables that would store or be available in the winter, and this, because it is a cold crop, is readily available in the fall and in the winter. They can stay underground for a long time, and therefore they were used a lot in recipes. Another popular dish that we use rutabagas for in Quebec is called un bouilli. Very famous in the fall when the rutabagas and the carrots and potatoes are harvested. It's the equivalent of the corned beef and cabbage for the Irish. So the bouilli is also a tradition that came from overseas and our ancestors and has stayed. I make bouilli every year. My family loves it. It's a great way to get all your vegetables in. It's a great dish. Corned beef and cabbage, who doesn't like that, right? Okay, so rutabaga casserole. We are going to make that today. We're going to be serving that for Thanksgiving, and I'm going to use the rutabagas that I've already cut up. I have enough for my casserole, but I wanted to show you what this guy looks like once it's diced up. So here we go. So I have diced and cut up all the rutabaga. A lot of people ask me what the difference is between a rutabaga and a turnip. The rutabagas are bigger in size, they're yellower, they're actually a little sweeter than turnips, but you can substitute the two in this recipe. So you can use turnips instead of rutabagas. I prefer the rutabaga, again, because they're a little bit milder and sweeter. And that's what I grew up with. So You dice up your rutabagas and you rinse them, and then we're going to add them to water and boil the rutabagas until they're tender, because we're going to mash them like mashed potatoes. So they will need to go into the pot in hot water and for about 45 minutes until they're tender to fork. Okay, our rutabagas have for about 25 minutes. They are tender. I'm going to add them to this bowl. The rest of this recipe is just pretty much putting everything together and cooking it, and it's done. To the rutabagas, I'm going to add a quarter cup of half and half, a quarter cup of plain breadcrumbs. I'm going to also add a quarter cup of the fluid, sounds like a nurse, of the liquid that I had reserved from cooking the rutabagas. And I'm also going to add about a quarter teaspoon or so of nutmeg. That's to taste. If you don't like nutmeg, you can leave it out. I think it adds a great taste to it. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of agave nectar. You can use corn syrup if you have that. They both do the same thing. Okay. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to start mashing the rutabagas. Excuse me.
This is messy.
The thickness of the mixture is up to you. Some people like it really smooth. Some people like it with little bits of the rutabaga still in it. Good either way. And don't worry about the bits that fell on the counter or the floor. Just don't put your finger in the bowl when you're mixing. That's what matters. We have one more ingredient to add to this, and it's 2 beaten eggs. So when you are pretty much done with beating your rutabagas to mash, you can add that to the mixture. Because our rutabagas are hot, I prefer adding the eggs gradually to the mixture when it's almost the end of the mixing part. I don't want to cook the eggs. Okay, I think we're done. I was trying to beat that one piece that just wouldn't mash, but I think I got it. Okay, so what we do next is we take our bowl that we're going to bake our casserole in, and it needs to be greased, so you can grease it with a little bit of oil or butter. And then we're going to pour our mixture into the bowl. You also have, in the meantime, your oven that is warming up at 350 degrees. And finally, we're going to take some butter, and we're going to just add some small pieces of butter to the top of the casserole. And it's going to be ready to bake. That's about 2 tablespoons. That's what's in the recipe, plus or minus I wouldn't skip the step though. I would add the butter to the top. Okay, so now you have it right here in the dish, ready to go into the oven, 350 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes. I did say 350, but it's 375 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes. And now we wait. All right, everyone, there we have it. Our Rutabaga Casserole, fresh out of the oven. I hope you enjoy it. Merci. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again. Good night.